We're back with the Republican effort to suppress the vote, this time in Pennsylvania, a state where Governor Tom Corbett signed a strict voter ID law 6 weeks ago. Joining me is Viviette Applewhite, a 93-year-old voter from Philadelphia who marched with Martin Luther King Jr., but now cannot vote for the first time in 50 years because of the state's new voter ID law. She's the lead plaintiff in a lawsuit filed this week challenging that law. Also with me, Judith Browne, Dianis, co-director of the Advancement Project, which joined the ACLU to file the lawsuit. Thanks to both of you for joining me tonight.
Thank you.
Viviette, let me start with you. Tell me your story. How is it this voter ID law in Pennsylvania keeping you from voting?
Because I don't have the ID, state ID, which I would have to go to the PennDOT to get it. And I don't have a birth certificate.
So you've been voting now for 50 years. The ID that you've used has been all right, but now all of a sudden, the new ID that is required, you can't make that qualification or reach that bar because you don't have a birth certificate, and they're denying you your right to vote.
That's right. That is correct.
Now, you marched with Martin Luther King for the right to vote. Did you ever think that you would come 50 years later and be denied the right to vote?
I never heard anything like this in my whole entire life. I never expected it.
It's not that you did not use ID down through the years. It's this new voter ID requirement, because I want people to understand we're not talking about people shouldn't identify themselves. We're saying that why is it necessary to have new ID? So you've always had qualified with your ID. It's the new laws that have given you the problem.
Just the new laws. Everything that they got about this thing, I will not be able to vote because I definitely do not have the qualifications that they want.
Now, let me play for you your governor, Governor Tom Corbett in Pennsylvania, defending the voter ID laws in Pennsylvania. Watch this.
Contrary to some claims, this bill does not interfere with anyone's legal right to vote.
He says that it won't interfere with anyone's legal right to vote. Here you are, 92 years old, march with Dr. King. It interferes with your right to vote. Is that not right?
Yes, it's interfering. I will not be able to vote.
Let me bring in Judith Browne, Dianis. Judith, when you look at the fact that out of 31 million votes cast, only 0.00004% have resulted in a claim of fraud. I mean, there is no reason at all to have changed the ID laws and make them more difficult to deny people like Ms. Applewhite the right to vote.
That's right, Reverend Sharpton. This is clearly not about preventing fraud. It's about preventing voting. You know, in the middle of the game, to change the rules, it's not fair. And to undermine our democracy by taking away the precious right to participate in our democracy is a shame. And there's no evidence of impersonation of voters. And people like Ms. Applewhite, to have voted for all of these decades to participate, to have a voice in our democracy, and then to be ripped off solely because some people want to stack the deck for partisan gain. This is a problem, and that's why Advancement Project and the ACLU have filed a lawsuit, because we want to stop these laws from spreading, because we believe everyone should have the right to vote.
Now, this is outrageous. I mean, let me show you something, Judith and Ms. Applewhite, that Governor Corbett said in 2010 before when he was elected the governor. Look at this.
The governor said yesterday that Bob Brady should resign as chairman of the Democratic Committee in Philadelphia if he doesn't get 50% turnout. We want to make sure that they don't get 50%. Keep that down.
They actually said they were going to keep turnout down. We're going to make sure he couldn't get 50%. So we're talking about people that clearly do not want to see voter turnout and have come up with a law that is totally unnecessary. Only 12 cases in Pennsylvania of voter fraud out of 31 million voters cast. In many ways, many of us feel because they want to keep turnout down.
That's right. And, you know, Reverend Sharpton, we know who this impacts. It impacts African Americans, Latinos, elderly voters, and students. And those are the people who turned out in record numbers in 2008. So we know that that's what this is about. It is about cutting off participation of those who turned out in record numbers in 2008.
Ms. Applewhite, you marched and you voted and you continued to be a model citizen, and now you're denied the right to vote. I think that it is clear that we need to stand up as Americans and fight to protect those that gave us the right to vote in the first place. And we're honored that you came on our show, and we're going to continue to talk about voter ID and what it does to people, and to make sure that the fight that you and Dr. King and others have fought for is not turned around in this generation.
Am I allowed to say anything?
Yes. Go ahead and say whatever you want.
Well, I want to say what I think the reason that they're doing it.
Why?
I think that the reason that they want this ID and everything is because there's so many of the black people that doesn't have ID. And I think it is because they don't want Obama in there. So I think they're trying to do something to keep the black people from having the right to vote, because they know that they don't have all these papers and things that they're supposed to be wanting to have, and they're not going to get them. So it's so many of them that I live in a building where it looked like to me, I didn't even realize it, looked like most of the people in my building, they're senior citizens, but they don't have the proper thing to vote with.
Well,
and it's going to be a whole lot of people that's not going to be able to vote.
Well, we're going to keep on this, and I'm glad you expressed how you feel. A lot of people feel that way. Viviette Applewhite and Judith Browne, Dianis, thanks to both of you for your time tonight, and good luck. And we're going to keep on talking about the attempts to block the vote. Thanks for watching. I'm Al Sharpton.